Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila in Thailand. Hello, Esther.
Hi, Alma. I'm Esther Adanga from EBC Thailand Bureau, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines, Myanmar's junta said it would not attend an upcoming ASEAN summit after the bloc's regrettable exclusion of its top diplomat over a lack of progress in diffusing post-coup violence.
President Rodrigo Duterte directed the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, to conduct a follow-up prosecution after busting sellers of fake medicines and fly-by-night drugstores.
And Cambodia is powering up its new national internet gateway, a move activists say will allow the government to further silence the country's embattled opposition voices.
Consolidated strategy on the 4IR for ASEAN will help the region move forward to become a digital community in a unified, comprehensive, and coordinated manner.
First in our news, Myanmar's junta today said it would not attend an upcoming ASEAN summit after the bloc's regrettable exclusion of its top diplomat over a lack of progress in diffusing the post-coup violence. ASEAN invited Myanmar to send a non-political representative to this week's foreign ministers' meeting, citing a lack of progress on a consensus agreed last year to facilitate dialogue with opponents of the coup. The decision to exclude junta-appointed diplomat Wana Maung Lin from the meet in Cambodia was regrettable, according to the Foreign Affairs Ministry in a statement. In this regard, Myanmar's inability to participate or even designate a non-political representative is inevitable, it added. It blamed the exclusion on unnamed member countries still holding on to the unilateral decision adopted by the bloc last October, when it barred junta chief Min Aung Hlaing from attending a leaders' meet. Now, that represented a rare rebuke from ASEAN. Myanmar is increasingly isolated on the international stage, with Cambodian strongman ruler Hun Sen's January visit the first by any foreign leader since the general seized power. He met military leader Min Aung Hlaing, and the pair discussed peace efforts and the junta's future plans, as well as the role of the ASEAN Special Envoy, according to the junta. But violence has continued, with anti-junta groups clashing regularly with the military, and the World Bank has already warned Myanmar's economy is likely contracted by almost a fifth last year. Meanwhile, the UN Refugee Agency is stepping up its response to assist hundreds of thousands of internally displaced people in Myanmar. According to the agency, the number of IDPs has now grown to 800,000, doubling since February last year. Take a look.
Security is deteriorating rapidly across the country as fighting and armed conflict intensifies with no sign of abating. UNHCR forecasts an accelerating trend in displacements in the coming weeks and months. Some 440,000 people have been newly displaced since February 2021, according to our data, adding to an existing 370,000 who had fled their homes previously. Humanitarian access in many parts of Myanmar remains restricted due to insecurity, roadblocks, and challenges in obtaining access approvals. As a result, host communities and local responders continue to play a leading role in assisting displaced populations, demonstrating solidarity with each other by donating what they can. Another conflict-affected area with pressing needs is Myanmar's northwest, where about 190,000 people remain displaced in Chin State, Magwai region, and Sagyang region.
Across the country, security is rapidly getting worse as fighting and armed conflict intensifies, forecasting more displacement In the coming weeks and months, UNHCR is now working with partners to scale up operations. Most internally displaced people are dependent on humanitarian support for survival. In 2022, UNHCR said it requires a total of $56.7 million to ensure adequate humanitarian assistance and support vulnerable communities. The 600,000 stateless Rohingya living in Rakhine State also require more help. The Rohingya are a stateless Muslim minority in Myanmar. Take a look.
Some 600,000 stateless Rohingya in Rakhine State, including some 148,000 displaced in camps, villages, and displacement sites, also remain highly vulnerable and require humanitarian support.
Powering.
Meanwhile, Cambodia is powering up its new national internet gateway, a move activists say will allow the government to further silence the country's embattled opposition voices. Rights experts warn the gateway, which will funnel all web traffic through a state-controlled entry point from February 16, will have a devastating effect on privacy and free speech. Hip-hop artist Kia Sakun, whose lyrics about injustice and corruption have struck a chord with Cambodia's disaffected youth, was among those jailed. He was arrested and convicted of incitement, spending a year behind bars, and now fears the new gateway will lead to more people suffering the same fate. Take a look.
ខ្ញុំយល់ថាការចាប់ខ្លួនខ្ញុំហ្នឹងគឺគេអត់ចង់ឲ្យមានសកម្មភាពដូចជាការបញ្ចេញមតិទៅលើសង្គមទៅលើបញ្ហាផ្សេងៗដែលកើតឡើងហើយមួយទៀតខ្ញុំគិតថាការខាត់ខ្លួនខ្ញុំគឺជាការជះឥទ្ធិពលមួយឬក៏គេហៅថាចាប់ដើម្បីពមៀនដល់អ្នកដទៃអញ្ចឹងបងនៅក្នុងស្រុកខ្មែរសិទ្ធិសេរីភាពក្នុងការបញ្ចេញមតិក្នុងការប្រើប្រាស់សិទ្ធិរបស់ខ្លួននឹងចង់បង្ហាញប្រាប់ឬក៏ផុសឬក៏និយាយអីចឹងទៅគឺមានអារម្មណ៍ថារដ្ឋបិទខ្លាំងមែនទែនគឺពិបាកហើយព្រោះមានបញ្ហាអីតិចគឺចាប់ចោតចាប់ចងអីចឹងទៅអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំយល់ថាវាយើងពិបាកក្នុងការធ្វើមតិអស់ហ្នឹងបង
So it just gives the government more power and more legitimate power to do so in terms of surveillance, and it would increase self-censorship among citizens, among advocates, and we can learn already during the pandemic, online have been quite an important way of communication. It signals us that yes, the government have watched out the power of social media, and the government would want to control the online space as they do so on the offline space. The step that the government have come up with restrictive legislation with the arrest or charge against online user is something adding to what have been happening already. When people express on the street. So the more people become fully aware through social media, the more people engage through social media, it poses the risk for the government. So in order to curb that risk, of course, the control has to be applied.
Internet gateways are the points on a network where a country connects to the World Wide Web. Once fully operational, Cambodia's new national internet gateway will channel all traffic through a single entry point controlled by the government. Internet service providers will be ordered to block websites and connections that adversely affect national revenue, safety, social border, morality, culture, traditions, and customs. UN rights experts warned earlier this month that the sweeping new powers will further shrink what is left of the space for dissent in Cambodia, where Hun Sen has buttressed his 37-year rule by steadily rolling back democratic freedoms. The Cambodian Center for Human Rights, or CCHR, says the new gateway will give the former Khmer Rouge cadre yet more ways to silence opposing voices. In 2021, at least 39 Cambodians were arrested, jailed, or had arrest warrants issued against them for online posts that fell foul of the government's censors, according to CCHR. President Rodrigo Duterte directed the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, to conduct a follow-up prosecution after busting sellers of fake medicines and fly-by-night drugstores. Watch this.
Ang akin lang kasi, there must be follow-up sa prosecution para mahinto na to. Baka gawin lang ninyong pagkatapos ulit, tapos wala lang, o wala talaga mangyari dito sa mga batas na to. So, somebody, those 6 lawyers that you have, are better off assigned to keep the monitoring activities para maano nila kung na ano ba ito, na huli ba at na demanda ba. Very important na mademanda kasi that's the only way to discourage people selling fake medicines, even they are what you would call legit outlets.
Meanwhile, Department of Interior and Local Government Secretary Eduardo Año said they will support the FDA in its fight against fake drug selling. Duterte also urged the FDA to strengthen its coordination with police authorities, such as the National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI, and the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, or CIDG, when making actions against the sellers of fake medicines. Foreign leisure tourists who suddenly test positive for COVID-19 while on vacation here in the Philippines will have to quarantine in their hotel rooms unless their condition turns critical. In a text message to the Business Mirror, Health Undersecretary and spokesperson Maria Rosario Vergara said what will be followed are the same protocols with the general public. Foreign tourists will have to quarantine in the hotel, she said, but concerned offices should be informed so they get monitored, stressing the BOQ, or the Bureau of Quarantine, should have close coordination with the hotel regarding this positive patient. The quarantine period for COVID-positive, fully vaccinated tourists can range from 7 to 10 days, depending on whether they are asymptomatic or what level of symptoms they exhibit. Those who have come in close contact with COVID-positive tourists should quarantine for 5 days from their last exposure. However, in cases where tourists exhibit severe symptoms like labored breathing, Vergara said, either the LGU or local government unit or the BOQ can do or facilitate the gas extraction from the hotel or resort to the hospital. Under current Department of Health, or DOH guidelines, those who show severe and critical symptoms shall be isolated for 21 days from the onset of signs and symptoms.
All Filipinos in Ukraine who want to return to the country may now come home, and the government will shoulder the cost. Shirley Santosildes, Filipino community leader based in Kiev, posted this message, written originally in Filipino, on the Facebook page of the United Filipino Global Ukraine amid fierce Russian will invade Ukraine. In an interview with the Business Mirror, Santosilde said they had a virtual meeting with officials from the Philippine Embassy in Poland on Sunday afternoon. And based on the embassy assessment, she said Filipinos should leave Ukraine. There are around 380 Filipinos in Ukraine, mostly domestic helpers and teachers. And based on standard contingency measures, the DFA, upon the recommendation of the concerned Philippine Embassy, can impose mandatory evacuation on Filipinos in conflict areas under Alert Level 4. Under Alert Level 4, the government will shoulder the repatriation cost. Russia and Belarus have already begun 10 days of military maneuvers Thursday, which Kiev calls psychological pressure. The head of NATO already warned Moscow's military buildup has reached a dangerous moment. And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. Esther and I will be back right after this break. Stay tuned.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba, sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
To Mobile Legends! Abangan ang mga istorya ng pagbangon sa Season 2 ng Lingap Stories tuwing Linggo, alas 5 ng hapon sa Net 25.
Welcome back. Thailand plans to reopen its borders with Malaysia to stimulate the economy. Here's Mr. Natapanu Nopakun, the Deputy Director General of the Thai Information Department Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Let's listen in.
Coordination in the relationship with our neighboring countries. So, in particular, the government's plan to reopen the southern border. So, according to the deputy government spokesperson, the government is planning to reopen the Thailand-Malaysia border next month in March 2022 to stimulate tourism and the economy in the deep southern provinces. The Prime Minister has also ordered the CCSA and the Tourism EOC, or Tourism Emergency Operations Center, to prepare and outline the pandemic mitigation measures, in particular for the reopening of the southern border provinces in the checkpoints in the provinces of Songkhla, Yala, Narathiwat, and Satoon. And following the government's policy to open a travel bubble with Malaysia, tourists from neighboring countries will be allowed to enter through the test and go scheme with no quarantine upon arrival. However, visitors will still need to pass 2 RT-PCR tests after arriving in Thailand.
Now, Thailand resumed its quarantine-free travel scheme from February 1 after the program was suspended due to the fast-spreading Omicron COVID variant. Pandemic travel curbs have hammered the kingdom's tourism-dominated economy, sending visitor numbers dwindling to a trickle. Fully vaccinated travelers will now be able to enter under the test and go scheme as long as they take COVID tests on the 1st and 5th days after arriving. According to studies in Thailand and abroad, a half dose of intramuscular injection and intradermal injection has the same effect as a full dose of intramuscular jab, but will have fewer side effect symptoms. Let's listen in again.
According to studies in Thailand and abroad, a half dose of intramuscular injection or intradermal injection has the same effectiveness as a full dose of intramuscular injection, but will have fewer side effects, symptoms, but more pain, a little bit more pain in the vaccinated spot. Those who wish to get this half dose of intramuscular or intradermal vaccine should register with the Bang Sue Central Vaccination Center and inform the officer at the entrance on that day.
Bar and restaurant owners operating out of Bangkok's nightlife street of Charan Krung set up antigen test kits spots for customers and bar staff amidst an emerging COVID outbreak. Take a look.
So the idea behind is that we, together with the whole bars in the neighborhood, decided we're going to turn this spot into a testing site. So once you get tested, you get a stamp, and with the stamp, you get to enjoy your nightlife in Soi Nana, Chinatown. Some people calling this madness, but I think this is like the new standard that we should be embracing. That if you want to come out and live your life, come out, show us the vaccination certification or passport, or do a swab test, ATK test, and then you can enjoy your night out responsibly.
Customers and staff must present proof of 2 doses of vaccinations or opt for an antigen test before being allowed to enter the premises. Separately, Khao Road, Bangkok's famous nightlife venue, also features RT-PCR testing spot for its workers. According to Bangkok Post, the country registered 27 more COVID-19 fatalities and 14,373 new cases during the previous 24 hours today. This compared with 26 coronavirus-related fatalities and 14,900 new cases reported on Monday morning. There were 14,177 local cases and 196 imported ones. Vietnam will lift coronavirus restrictions on international flights for fully vaccinated passengers from Tuesday, the country's aviation authority said in a statement. The communist nation has virtually closed itself to the world since March 2020 due to the pandemic, dealing a severe blow to its vital tourism sector. Authorities have slowly eased curbs in recent months, with visitors trickling in under a bubble arrangement since November. Starting Tuesday, Vietnam will lift restrictions on passenger carriage on scheduled flights and non-scheduled flights, the Civil Aviation Authority said. The statement released Sunday did not say how many flights would be allowed to enter, but indicated arrivals could be permitted to return to pre-pandemic levels. Anyone wanting to enter Vietnam must be fully vaccinated and will have to observe a 3-day quarantine either at home or in a hotel according to regulations. Travelers must still abide by existing entry-exit regulations and pre-pandemic healthcare requirements, the authority said. More than 90% of adults in the country have received 2 COVID-19 vaccine doses. The government is considering inoculating young teenagers as it accelerates the rollout of booster shots. Vietnam is currently reporting around 20,000 new daily cases and has recorded more than 2.5 million infections with nearly 39,000 deaths since the beginning of the pandemic. The Philippine National Police Intelligence Group, or PNP-IG, on Tuesday announced that it has uncovered attempts by known foreign terrorist organization to wage a proxy war in the country by recruiting Filipino subordinates who will carry out terrorist activities targeting Israeli citizens. In a report to PNP Director for Intelligence Major General Michael John Dobria, IG Chief Brigadier General Neil Alinsangan said a local contact of Hamas, a Middle East-based Islamist militant group that played a major role in carrying out attacks against Israelis and Arabs, tipped them about the alleged plot. Alinsangan, citing information obtained from coordination with their foreign and local counterparts, disclosed that Bashir's real name is Faris al-Shikli, who is purportedly the head of Hamas' foreign license section. He said he has also an Interpol, or International Criminal Police Organization, red notice and is charged with an offense of terrorism logistic support. The report also cited that the source made several trips to Malaysia from 2016 to 2018, where he met with al-Shikli to discuss possibility of mounting attacks against Israeli nationals in the country in exchange for financial assistance by Hamas. It was in 2016 when al-Shikli started grooming him as local contact in the Philippines and introduced him to theoretical bomb-making training in one of their meetings in Malaysia.
Despite the downward trend on daily COVID cases nationwide, the Interagency Task Force here in the country for the management of emerging infectious diseases decided to retain the Alert Level 2 classification of the NCR and most parts of the country until the end of the month. However, the task force decided to place the following 7 areas under Alert Level 3 until the 28th of February, which is Iloilo City, Iloilo Province, Guimaras, Zamboanga City, Davao de Oro, Davao Occidental, and South Cotabato. In a new statement issued on Monday, acting presidential spokesman Carlo Nograles said the IATF opted not to de-escalate the alert in NCR for now, as recommended by health experts. Nograles said the new list of alert levels will take effect from February 16 to February 28. And we'll take a short break. ASEAN in Focus. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Lap trip talaga ang mga bata.
Dito kami nagja-jogging.
Para?
Papagod.
Napaka-honest eh.
Natapos mo na yung module mo.
Hello, Mami. Happy ka?
Did you finish na?
Mami, hello. Happy.
Mami, it's a prank. Maglalaro muna tayo ng ating maling a color.
Normal lang magselos.
Di naman ako nasaktan.
Pero di mo naman jowa.
Aray, ang sakit! Palakpakan natin siya, guys.
Takot ka daw kay Badong?
Hindi ako takot.
Mabagal ako tumakbo eh.
Funniest Nakaball Videos.
Panoorin nyo kami ngayong linggo dito sa pinakamasayang game show sa Net25.
Dito lang sa Tara Game, agad-agad with Aga Mula.
Tara!
Sila ang mga kinikilalang bayaning may mahalagang papel para makamit ang kalayaan at pagbabago sa Pilipinas. Pero sa panahong ito, may mga bagong bayaning nakikipaglaban sa sakit na lumaganap sa buong daigdig, ang COVID-19. Ang ating mga frontliner, gaya ng healthcare workers, mga doktor, nurses, medical technologists, at iba pang health professionals, mga pulis, sundalo, security guards, mga tauhan na nangangalaga sa seguridad at mahahalagang pangangailangan ng bawat komunidad. Ang mga bagong bayani, ating pasalamatan. Kilalanin ang kanilang sakripisyo at serbisyo para sa lahat.
Hello everyone, my name is Paulo Sandejas. Please catch me on Letters and Music on air and online this coming Saturday, Feb 19 from 1 to 2 p.m. Only here on Net 25. See you guys then.
Welcome back. The Philippines and Japan are set to hold a high-level virtual meeting on Wednesday to discuss the accomplishments on the big-ticket infrastructure projects under President Duterte's Build program, as well as updates on the financing extended by Japan for the country's COVID-19 response programs. Chairing the meeting for the Philippine side is Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez, while Mr. Mori Masafumi, the Special Advisor to Prime Minister Fumio Kishida of Japan, will lead the Japanese delegation in the meeting. The meeting of the Philippines-Japan High-Level Joint Committee on Infrastructure Development and Economic Cooperation will focus on the substantive accomplishments made by the body on the Japan-supported big-ticket projects under the Build program, and this will include the Metro Manila Subway Project MMSP, North-South Commuter Railway Project, rehabilitation of the Metro Rail Transit Line 3, Dalton Pass East Alignment Road, Central Mindanao Highway, and the Parañaque Spillway, among others. Under the term of then Japan Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, Japan vowed to provide 1 trillion yen, or about $9 million in financing support to the Philippines over the next 5 years, and to establish a joint committee on infrastructure development and economic cooperation to coordinate this assistance. This commitment was completed in July 2021 under the administration of then Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, who was the Chief Cabinet Secretary during Prime Minister Abe's term. Meanwhile, Agriculture Secretary William Dar urged businessmen and prospective investors from the United Arab Emirates to venture into agriculture-related projects in the Philippines. Dar presented the business opportunities in the country's agriculture sector to prospective investors during a recent business engagement in Dubai, UAE, and he also touted the farm sector's performance during the Duterte administration and its efforts and programs to modernize and industrialize food production in the country. He also told the businessmen that the Philippine Department of Agriculture's reform agenda is tied to its 4 pillars of farm consolidation, modernization, industrialization, and professionalization of farming. Dar told the businessmen that there are opportunities related to the production of coconut, mango, pineapples, bananas, tuna, seaweeds, and crabs. Meanwhile, the country is looking at a $500 million worth of integrated dairy facility after sealing a partnership with Baladna Qatar Public Shareholding Company, or QPSC. The project can increase local milk production by 120 million liters from the current 26.71 million liters to address local demand and decrease imports, according to the Department of Agriculture. The investments will be able to generate 2,000 new jobs during the initial phase of its first full year of operations, providing significant opportunities for domestic employment, according to Secretary William Dar in a statement. Dar shared details of the deal signed in Dubai, United Arab Emirates on February 11 with Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez and Baladna QPSC QPSC Independent Board Member Aidan Tinan. Balad na QPSC is into raising livestock and the production of dairy products including milk, yogurt, cheese, and labname, which is cheese made from strained yogurt, as well as animal fertilizers. And the company is Qatar's largest locally owned food and dairy producer, supplying over 95% of the country's fresh dairy products. Lopez also graced the Dubai World Expo, where he delivered a message during the Philippines' National Day official ceremony.
In other news, Moody's Analytics projects an unchanged policy rate for the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP Policy Making Monetary Board or MB first rate setting meeting for the year on Thursday. The Philippine Central Bank will hold its benchmark policy rate steady at 4% at its February meeting. It said in its Asia-Pacific Economic Preview for the week covering February 14 to 18 this year, released on Monday. The rate-setting meeting is widely expected to keep key rates steady this week as BSP Governor Benjamin Diokno has repeatedly communicated his commitment for the central bank's support to help in the economy's recovery from the pandemic. The MB slashed the central bank's key policy rates by a total of 200 basis points in 2020 to help buoy the domestic economy from the pandemic. Meanwhile, senators will tackle the pending move to ratify the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, as endorsed by the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, when they resume session in late May, according to the chairman of Foreign Relations Committee. They target a final plenary vote to ratify or reject the palace-endorsed accord, which dozens of farm-related organizations oppose, but which government economists and managers want ratified as soon as possible so that the Philippines will not be left out from the benefits of joining the multilateral trade deal. Opposers of RCEP stress, however, that the so-called loss from not joining is minimal compared to the huge adverse impacts on local economic sectors, noting how past multilateral accords failed to live up to the promised benefits for the stakeholders. RCEP has been billed as the biggest partnership of countries backing updated trading rules. Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel III, chairman of Endorsing Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, said they intend to conclude interpellations to pave the way for a final plenary vote as soon as lawmakers resume sessions on May 23. He, however, declined to predict if the proponents of the bill can muster the 16 votes needed to ratify the accord. The RCEP relaxes trading rules among the member countries, Australia, China, Japan, South Korea, New Zealand, as well as 10 members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, which are the Philippines, Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Myanmar, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Asia's biggest air show takes place in Singapore this week, with the aviation sector hoping 2022 marks a turning point in a region where tough curves have left coronavirus-altered airlines struggling to recover. Watch this.
Because right now, where we are starting to see green shoots in the industry, right, passenger travel numbers are up, flight frequencies are up. I think we can all sense the pent-up demand for travel.
And based on the new successful 27 Dreamliner family, Boeing says it has designed the 777X family to maximize looking at the skies, this aircraft... Ladies and gentlemen, and based on the new successful 737 Dreamliner family, Boeing says it has designed the 777X family to maximize efficiency. And today, Boeing has flown more than 650 flights, and the wing and engine make the 777X 10% more fuel efficient than the competition, with 10% lower emissions and 10% in Singapore Airlines.
Finally, in our news, here's how the recently adopted consolidated strategy on the 4IR for ASEAN will help the region move forward to become a digital community in a unified, comprehensive, and coordinated manner. Take a look.
We have come to a point where communities are no longer just physical. The world is rapidly moving into the digital space, in a phenomenon that is also called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. By and large, the opportunities deriving from the Fourth Industrial Revolution in ASEAN are limitless, as its technologies allow people to stay connected, help the region's economy to recover, grow, and become more competitive, and improve and empower ASEAN citizens' livelihood and lives. To stay ahead, ASEAN brings forward its consolidated strategy, which embraces a unified and cross-pillar approach to the Fourth Industrial Revolution. In the area of technological governance and cybersecurity, we envision a digital ASEAN that is open, secure, transparent, and connected, while respecting privacy and ethics in line with international practices. In the area of digital economy, what we are after is a digital ASEAN that harnesses technologies to build a resilient, inclusive, integrated, and globally competitive economy. Finally, in the area of digital transformation of society, what is envisioned is a digital ASEAN that embraces innovation in transforming society, contributing to social progress and sustainable development. Today, in ASEAN, we are proud to say that we are moving towards a digital community and are ready to make the most of what the Fourth Industrial Revolution has to offer.
Thank you very much, Esther, for keeping me company as always here on ASEAN in Focus. How is the situation there in Thailand now?
For me, Alma, for my workplace now, we have to work from home.
Okay.
And because of the surge in cases in my workplace. So, but still trying to be normal, Alma.
That's good. Here it's going down. The cases are going down. Hopefully, it continues to go down. And life will soon be normal as we can get it to be. Thank you very much, Esther, for keeping me company as always.
And it's always my pleasure, Alma, and that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Esther Adanga from Thailand Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back tomorrow here on ASEAN in Focus, same time, same place. And stay in the news because we live in interesting times.